Hi.
How's it going? Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
I'm Patty. Hello.
Very
Hello.
eager dog.
Hi, Patty.
Hi.
Welcome.
How are you? Thank you. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful here.
There's an entourage of
We have an
animals.
entourage of animals and humans here. We have Lentil, our tiny senior rescue, and River, our black lab.
Hello, I'm Paddy O'Donnell, and this is the Chromologist from Farrow and Ball, the podcast where paint and colour meet life. On this special edition of the podcast to celebrate Thanksgiving Day, we have travelled over the pond to meet the wonderful Suleika Jaouad. Suleika is an Emmy Award-winning journalist, activist, artist, and the best-selling author of Between Two Kingdoms and the Book of Alchemy, three-time cancer survivor and creator of the Isolation Journals, a newsletter and global creative community. She is a subject of the Oscar-nominated and Grammy-winning documentary American Symphony. Hello, Suleika. It's a pleasure to meet you and be at your home in lovely rural New Jersey.
Thank you, Patty. I'm
It's
so
gorgeous.
happy to be here with you.
Well, thank you. It's really nice because yesterday I was in New York, probably about 90% humidity. And here it's kind of cleaner air and the sound of bird song, and it's gorgeous.
I have this push and pull toward the city. I was born on the Lower East Side. Since my 20s and since getting sick, I am someone who wilts when I'm in a big city for longer than...
Okay.
And so I love that the drive from the city, you get to see the rolling hills and you get to smell the river. And yeah, there is a very palpable ambient shift. And there are a lot of working farms. There are a lot of artists. I love this area so much.
It's a creative community, is it?
Very much so. Our friend, the writer Elizabeth Gilbert, first moved here about 20 years ago.
Right.
And she has convinced, I think, 11 or 12 people, us included, to move here, which makes her our unwitting cult leader.
Okay.
But it's just a really beautiful, tight-knit community. And we've fallen madly in love with this whole region.
So we'll start off, if you don't mind, with the colour of your childhood and what that colour is, and then kind of what that resonates, the memories, the feelings.
So I'm realizing as we're sitting here that I've never actually said this Farrow and Ball color out loud. I've only ever read it. So please correct me.
It can be whatever you...
Inkira?
So some people say Inchira, some people say Inkira.
And in my mind's ear, I've always heard it as Inchira blue.
Yeah.
And it's one of my very favorite Farrow and Ball colors. I grew up, my mom is Swiss from the French part of Switzerland, and my father is from Tunisia. And as a child, I moved, I think I went to about 12 different schools on 3 different continents by the time I was 10 years old. So
kind of very informative. Was it good? Did you cope with it?
You know, I think as a little kid, all you want is to be normal. So I used to pleadingly beg my parents to let me legally change my name to Ashley.
Right, okay.
I wanted to be as American as possible. Now, of course, I very much appreciate having grown up in a sort of gumbo of cultural and creative influences. But that color in Inchira blue, I think I'm drawn to for so many reasons. I love the so as a little kid, I spent a year living in Paris, and I love the blue-green doors that you see so often.
Yes, it's a very particular color, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a very particular color. It's slightly washed out. I think that color also has a sort of Mediterranean azure quality. And where we lived in Tunisia is in this town called Sidi Bou Said, where all the doors...
Which is really beautiful, isn't it?
Very beautiful.
Yeah.
My parents...
Carthage, yeah.
Yes, my parents still currently live there. And so as soon as I saw it, and as soon as we moved to this new home, I decided to drench our guest bedroom.
Oh, you've used it here, have you?
Yes, I'll show it to you after we're done talking.
I was just thinking the blue, actually, it looked very beautiful with actually your stonework here. It's kind of nice. Oh, it's lovely. It's a really popular colour. So I think we launched that about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's become one of our perennially favourite darks.
May I ask how you arrive at a colour like Inchira?
This came from a house up in Scotland. I think it's seen on the stable block. So it's kind of reworking of this house from a stable block on a big Scottish estate. So, and the family are in Shire family. So it came from that.
Interesting.
But it's lovely because it's kind of got this kind of green note through it. So it's not a chilly blue, even though it's quite dark, is it? It's kind of warmth to it with that green, which probably then lends back to the Mediterranean, how you get that sort of blue-green mix, don't you?
Exactly.
In sort of deep waters and everything. But I love the Parasol thing because I remember going to Saint-Germain-en-Laye, sort of suburb, and they have this quite particular blue on a lot of the woodwork of the buildings.
I have so many photos of different blue doors that I've come across in Paris and in Tunisia that I feel like I could make a picture book of.
A book of the blue door.
Of just blue doors.
There you go. Just
I'm
in case your creative juices dry
exactly.
up.
And unfortunately, some of these colors just can't be recreated because they're the product of sun and salts and
patina
many years
and
of
weathering,
patina. But I think the Inshira for me gets at my most beloved version of that blue.
And going back to Tunisia, I've never been, but do you go back every year?
I haven't been back in 3 years. I had a bone marrow transplant 3 years ago.
Okay.
And in the process of that, you lose all of your childhood vaccinations.
Right.
And so I've just been revaccinated, and I'll be going back for the first time this fall, just in time for the olive oil harvest. I'm so excited. You'll see we have some Tunisian tiles right in front of us, but these kind of watery greens that they're able to achieve.
I mean, do you bring these back? Have you got a bathroom in these or something? A beautiful shower in these?
I have a massive collection
Do you?
of Tunisian tiles. I also just love them as objects in home design or in my own painting. Anything where you can see the human hand and the imperfections that come.
Oh no! My
of the
partner
human
was
hand.
a ceramicist, and he's given me a kind of love and appetite for understanding the skill and craft. But seeing this is lovely, and just for context for the listeners, there's this beautiful tile. It's a lovely kind of sort of hand-drawn star shape in the middle, which has got this almost slightly aubergine pen line to it, with a lovely grey-green wash in it, and then you've got these wonderful yellow ochres around it, and then this beautiful green design on the end. It's really lovely, isn't it?
It's I love them so much. I always say if our house were to catch on fire, I'd grab my dogs and then I'd grab my Tunisian tiles.
Can I just ask, where does John come on the list, or has he got to make his
I'm
own way out?
assuming John is going to be helping me carry the tiles.
Okay.
Yeah. And the dogs.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, I love that.
It's a very sort of funky house, but it has these kind of curved plastered stairs in the kitchen. And
It's amazing.
Really different.
So you got Cadillac on the morning?
So Cadillac, we have this strange stairwell to figure out how to conceal, and I kind of love a design constraint.
These Moroccan, these encaustic.
These are actually French.
Oh, are they? Good colours, that kind of oxblood red and the kind of chocolate.
And
Nice.
I'm imagining a kind of oxblood red curtain that's going to be swagged back over the windows. Nice. So these windows I got in that architectural salvage yard that I'll be sending you to shortly.
So we're moving on now to the colour of your youth. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where this falls.
So the way I understand the pronunciation is brinjal. It's like
is.
Deep
kind of aubergine eggplant again, isn't it? Almost.
Nearly like a purple black almost.
Yeah.
And so I have always been drawn to the warmer colors, to the reds, to the deep purples. And my parents were strict in some ways when I was growing up. I wasn't allowed to date until I was 18. And
did you stick by that rule?
You know, I was a kid who, I was a little bit of a hellraiser.
Right, okay.
But I talked a big game. But outside of my talking game, I was actually a pretty good kid. I was a provocateur.
Okay.
And so my parents were this bizarre contrast of strict in some ways. So I wasn't allowed to date, but I had a hookah in my bedroom in the seventh grade. Okay. Totally bizarre. And the one area where I did feel immense freedom was when it came to creative choices. And so my bedroom was my dominion. I was allowed to do whatever I wanted in there, to express myself however I wanted.
And that was driven by both parents?
Both parents.
Okay, yeah.
And both my parents, my mom is a visual artist and a ceramicist. My father is a professor, he's retired now, of French and Francophone and Maghrebian literature. And so I grew up in not a fancy house, but a house where, books and art and following your creative instincts was respected and prized above anything else. And as long as you were curious and as long as you weren't being conventional, then that was rewarded.
Right, okay.
And my mom, used to say to me, because I was in some ways, unlike my parents, I was a sort of very much a perfectionist. I'd get very upset if I deemed something to not be working or to not look good.
Did you walk away from it? Did you chuck in the towel if you didn't get perfection? Or would you keep going back until you achieved perfection?
I keep going back until I achieve perfection, but sometimes I would work myself up into such a tizzy that I would decide that I was bad and that I couldn't do it. So my mom always said, especially in painting, or if I would say, this is such a mess. And she'd say, the mess is where the energy is. The mess is where the magic is. You just have to keep going.
God,
That's where the electricity is.
I wish I had a mentor like your mother.
Oh, I know. I was very lucky in that respect. And so I did push the limits of that a little too far in my creative choices within my bedroom, because I had this old, beautiful wooden bookshelf that my mom had gotten from some thrift store in town. And in the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep, and I don't know what possessed me, but I got up, I went to my mom's studio, I picked a random can of red paint, and I went about very sloppily painting this entire bookshelf. And then the pièce de résistance was I got this dark purple glittery nail polish, and I finished off the trim with it. And so, of course, not only did it not look good, but it wasn't properly prepped and, looked worse and worse as the weeks went on. And my mom wasn't mad at my color choices. She was mad at my lack of respect for the piece itself.
Over the craft of the bookcase.
And the craft and execution of it. And so I still have this bookshelf in my bedroom. It's not stripped.
It's still as it was.
It's exactly as it was. I laugh every time I walk in there.
That's hilarious.
I still remember that dark purple nail polish color, and I remember picking it out from the drugstore in town and thinking that it was elegant but also edgy and punk rock in this way. And I feel like that color embodies my sort of struggle throughout my youth. I was wanting to be a good girl to get the good gold star, and also wanting,
with that frustrated,
to be a little feral
anarchy.
and free and make a mess of things.
Okay. It's kind of interesting you chose brinjal because, again, just for people who may not know it, as you said, it's kind of a deep, slightly blackened, sort of plum, winey aubergine color. Mm-hmm. It's really beautiful, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of rich. It goes back to the evocation of the scented candle and everything. It's that kind of spicy, rich sort of Mediterranean, North African aubergines are used a lot, aren't they, in cuisine as well, sort of baba ganoush and things. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Absolutely.
So it's lovely. It's a really good red. And can we go do that anywhere here?
I was just saying, so I actually did initially try that color in the guest room.
In the Inchira
Blue guest room.
Okay.
But I've always thought that a very moody study or a library would
it'd be lovely because it'd
gorgeous.
It would be warm as well.
Absolutely, in that brinjal. So I have befriended these wonderful ladies with a salvage yard in Pennsylvania. And they were salvaging a beautiful old house outside of Philadelphia that was being torn down. And it had these hand-painted 18th century frescoes. So I was like, please send them to me. I have no idea where they're going to go, but they're too beautiful to be destroyed. And so it has been a massive jigsaw puzzle to figure out how and where they fit. I wanted a kind of Tunisian style arch in here. And
so this is going to be your bedroom?
This will be our bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're moving on, Suleika, to your defining decade. Now, you're not that old. So probably quite easy to narrow it down. So what color is it, and when is your defining decade? Which kind of age group does this slot into?
So I think of my defining decade as my late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
My 20s were very turbulent, and they were marked by a lot of upheaval, some of it great and some of it incredibly challenging. I got sick with leukemia at 22, and that set me on this path of, living out of my childhood bedroom and living out of hospitals and living out of a wonderful place called the Hope Lodge. Receiving treatment in upstate New York wasn't an option. I had to relocate to New York City.
Okay.
And so I really felt this kind of medical vagrancy that I really struggled with. I didn't feel rooted in any one place, and of course didn't feel rooted
How could you? Yeah.
within myself. And so, all I wanted during those turbulent years was to have a home of my own, to have one set of keys, to do perhaps the opposite of what a lot of people want to do in their 20s, which is to travel and to see the world.
Yeah.
I just wanted a sense of stability, and spent a lot of time thinking about what that future home would look like, and daydreaming about it long before it was even in the realm of possibility. I'm someone I spent, I think that first year of treatment, about 8 months inpatient in the hospital and receiving chemotherapy and a bone marrow transplant, and just dealing with, overlapping complications. And I'm very sensitive to the environment that I'm in, and very much struggled, not just with being in the hospital, of course, and the serious nature of my disease, but just the atmosphere of the hospital, that kind of harsh fluorescence of the lights, the fact that you're being woken up every hour of the night, the kind of sonic overload of beeping IV poles, etc. And so very early on, I put together a suitcase that was my travel suitcase for when I end up being hospitalized, often unexpectedly. And I had very realistic wax LED candles.
Right. Okay.
That I would put in the windowsill so I could turn off the fluorescent lights. I had just a couple of books, and I had a poster usually of some kind,
So
that
just
I would
trying to create
put up on the
more
wall.
stable sensory environment for
A calming,
existence.
stable
Yeah.
environment. And I've, thought a lot about how when you go into a pediatric cancer unit or a pediatric hospital, there's a lot of attention paid to color choices. They're brightly colored. There are murals. There's an attention to the aesthetics of a space in a way that's either meant to soothe and center and calm, or to bring joy. And for whatever reason, and most, at least in the United States, American hospitals or cancer units, it's just beige everywhere.
Right. Okay.
And not the beautiful beiges of Farrow and Ball. And so I spent a lot of time writing about this future home, sketching it out. Yeah. But there's an ongoing preoccupation with home as refuge and also as an extension of identity. Okay. And so when I got to a place of more stability around age 30, when John and I were getting ready to talk about our future and to talk about a home, and when we bought our very first home in Brooklyn, we immediately began to talk about how to make this home a place where we could not only live and work, but we wanted every room to have a comfortable, nappable surface.
Okay.
And we wanted it to,
even in the kitchen.
Even in the kitchen. Well, we have a very open kitchen with a living room right there. But we settled on setting plaster, and actually John picked the color setting plaster for the kitchen. And he's from New Orleans, and grew up with these gorgeous saturated hues that you'll see on homes there. And he loved the idea of a pink kitchen. And I have to confess that I was a little scared of the pink kitchen. I had the blue and white Tunisian tiles. I think because I took the responsibility of having a home so seriously, in a way, it actually made me scared of going too bold. I felt like we could kind of baby step into paint color. And I'll never forget the day that we painted a sample of it, because the setting plaster, of course, contrasted against a bare white wall.
Yeah.
Looks...
Which is always a terrible marker to judge a paint.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I had this reaction where I like took several steps back and was very, very concerned. And we decided to trust the process, and we wrapped that room in it. And it's our favorite room in the house.
Is it?
And I love, it's such I feel like pink is actually the wrong descriptor for it.
Yeah, it's too earthy really to be most people's perception of pink, isn't it?
Absolutely. It feels really like a plaster color.
Yeah. I try and persuade everybody it's a neutral. See it as a neutral rather than a pink.
And it's so warm, and at various times of the day, sometimes it reads more blush, it reads more earthy, and you see more of the kind of terracotta hues in it. And I think for me, it also set me on a path of anytime I'm scared of a color, I usually end up not only being excited by it, but it ends up being my very favorite.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so that has, as we've moved to this new farm, setting plaster has very much informed the way that I approach color now.
It's lovely. I mean, it's probably... I mean, I don't even need to explain setting plaster to the listeners because they know it, but it's got that lovely earthy quality. And you said, as you mentioned, it transitions so beautifully through light. So if it's drenched with lots of sunlight, you almost get this bleaching out where it does really become a very nuanced neutral, which is lovely. Look, we've gone full circle here. We're going back to that Castle Grey.
The Castle Grey, exactly.
Yeah.
We've been describing our aesthetic as Tunisiana, which is a blend of Tunisia and Louisiana.
Your kind of spiritual homeland.
So this is where things take a wild turn. So this marbled wallpaper is the wallpaper of our very favorite hotel in New Orleans. It's our kind of home away from home, the St. Vincent. And I've
only seen it online on Instagram. It looks so beautiful.
I do my own marbling, and I love old books that have marbling. So the cover of my new book, The Book of Alchemy, is marbled.
This is India yellow, is it?
India yellow.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Which looks beautiful, doesn't it?
It's very much in process.
We're going to talk about the colour of Where Are You Now?
I've been very much drawn to greens.
Yeah.
I think both in this season of illness, but also just generally, if you look around this room, these sort of watery greens above the door here. My grandmother, Mireille, who lives in Switzerland, who's 96, 97 years old, has beautiful, beautiful taste, and she has in her apartment very similar blown glass jars and these kind of watery greens. I'm drawn to the watery greens that we described earlier.
And
these Tunisian tiles and that kind of translucence. And the name of the color that I picked is Vert de Terre.
And you say it so much more beautifully because you're French.
Vert de Terre. And so it's a color that I'm sampling here as I'm exploring. Okay. I love a kind of pale Spanish moss type green for whatever
This is a
reason.
gentleness to it. It's not a verdant green. It's not the green of outdoors per se, is it? It's softer.
It's not a Kelly green. It's not exactly. There's a softness to it. It's and I think it's its own kind of neutral in a way. Yeah, but there's something cleansing about it. Being in nature is, whether I'm in a big city or out here, I begin my day in nature, which is a must when you have 3 dogs. So I either begin my day in a city park or I begin my day in the woods here with my dogs. If I'm during chemo week, I confess to Ubering to the park. Right, and if all I can do is sit on the grass, that's what I do. Okay. So I have my kind of contingency plans, but no matter what, rain or shine, first thing in the morning, I gather my 3 dogs and I go outdoors.
I mean, it's kind of really interesting, especially that level of green that you're choosing with the Vert de Terre. And I want you to say that because it's so much better. And but obviously there's color psychology and whether that's relevant or non-relevant depending on your belief. You know, if somebody says yellow is energizing, you go, but I hate yellow, then it's not going to have those benefits for you. Yeah. But obviously green is about relaxation and calm and breathing and sort of breathe in, breathe out and everything. So it has lots of really good positive vibes, which is probably very important for where you're at and have been.
You know, nobody wants to have leukemia 3 times. And the advantage of having leukemia 3 times is that I'm very much over it, which is to say that I've gotten used to illness being a part of my life.
What made you want to share and document your experience?
Like writing in a journal is cathartic for me.
Okay.
You know, there's a great Toni Morrison line, and she says, if there's a book you want to read and it doesn't exist yet, then you must write it. And so I'm actually a very private person. I've never been interested in writing in the first person unless it is the only source material I have available to either answer a question that is preoccupying me on a craft level, on a philosophical level, and inhabiting that first person becomes a way to explore something that is hopefully not about the self, but something more universal. And so I wanted to be a fiction writer when I was a kid in high school, and then I wanted to be a journalist, and because that seemed like a more practical career path than trying to somehow pay the bills by being a novelist. And I think I'm most fascinated by writing that lives in that blurred boundary between memoir and reporting, or memoir and fiction. And when you're living through something as dramatic as an illness, it really does bring you down to your most sort of savage, laid-bare self. And there's something kind of interesting about being in that porous state. And so, you know, anytime I've written about myself, it's with a very, very clear objective in mind. It's not therapy. It's not journaling. That can be very cathartic, but it's my work, and it feels like a separate process.
And I notice here, I'm assuming that's not a stage set. You got your little analog typewriter. You work on that?
It's a real thing. I've formed a relatively new friendship. It sounds so name droppy, but with Tom Hanks, who is obsessed with typewriters and obsessed with journals.
Okay.
And so he sent me a typewriter from his
How
collection.
amazing.
And we have been sending each other our favorite paper supplies and journals back and forth. It's a very nerdy correspondence.
Oh, I love that. It's hilarious. It's brilliant.
And so I have yet to use it, but I put it there with the hope that, you know, once I just put my second book out, and once I'm feeling ready to start working again, I like the idea of returning to a different kind of analog approach to writing. I write all of my first drafts in journals or by hand.
Do you? Okay.
Because I hate the ability, the sort of tyranny of the backspace bar on a computer.
Right. Okay.
And I end up over editing myself before I even know what I'm trying to say. And so, you know, there's only so much crossing off you can do when you're writing by hand. And so I thought, if I'm already doing it inefficiently, why not give a typewriter a go?
Have you got book 3 bubbling?
I have book 3 bubbling.
Okay.
It's a book of essays and paintings. I'm doing a lot of painting. And it is just interesting how you're instinctually drawn to different colors and different...
Yes, because your palette's got softer as you got older.
My palette has gotten softer in a lot of ways. And I think it's also a byproduct of beginning to paint myself.
Okay.
So 3 years ago, I had a second bone marrow transplant, and that's about a month-long hospitalization. And I began experimenting with watercolor. And I was having these disturbing nightmares and medication-induced hallucinations of these kind of 7-foot giraffes that doubled as IV poles, or like a roseate spoonbill that was transporting my hospital bed, these kind of surrealist Book of Revelation-esque scenes. And so I started transcribing those, and that's how I began. And I love...
So almost William Blake-ish.
Exactly. And what I love about watercolor is that you aren't the sole agent of its movement. It really is a kind of aquatic dance and collaboration, not only with the pigment, but with the water itself. And you have to surrender to it.
Well, this is where I get to gift you a colour.
Oh.
And actually, I'm just playing to the green. But obviously, knowing where you've been, and your personal journey
Yeah.
through leukemia. So it's actually a colour of ours, it's an archive colour. It's called Castle Grey, but I changed the name. So sort of here's a sample pot of the colour, and I'm calling it salvia. So you all know what salvia is. It's sage, and you burn sage, and it's healing and it's calming. You can see it.
Stunning.
So it's a little bit more intense than the Verditer.
It's beautiful. It was exactly what I was saying before, that I'm drawn to a kind of a moss, a Spanish moss.
It is quite Spanish moss.
Okay,
So
I'm
there
going to
you
need
go.
your thoughts on where we should use this
Yeah,
color.
there you go.
As
So
we do
make
our
your
lap.
tiles, use that wash in it, and then that can be, I don't know, on a clawfoot bath or something.
I'm
And
excited
Here's
to-
to all the things coming.
And reveling in the messes.
And reveling in the messes and enjoying the messes.
What a
Thank you.
joy to get to talk to you about my very favorite topic.
If you would like to follow Suleika, her Instagram is at Suleika Jaouad. You can also follow us at Farrow, and of course you can discover all the colours we've talked about today on our website. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please tell your friends. The Chromologist is a Farrow and Feast Collective production. The producer is Sarah Cadner, but today we had a little extra helping hand as we're in the States from Will Coley. Until the next one, goodbye and big hugs.